What is up, guys? I have finally obtained the Spartan Yoroi. For those who haven't seen my Wave 4 review or the 20th anniversary 2-pack review, I've been on the hunt for this guy ever since he was announced. He was super hard to find, and I did have to pay aftermarket for him, so I spent around $47. And pulling him out of the box, just visuals, first impressions, he looks good. I really like the paint job so far with the maroon and the gold. The thing that does kill me, especially because I paid aftermarket price, is that energy sword. The tip is bent, so the blades are not straight, and it kind of kills me. I mean, I'm not gonna blame the guy on eBay I bought it from, because he said he never opened it, and I'm gonna take his word, but it just hurts that I paid extra and that happened. But visuals, Spartan Yoroi looks promising, and I can't wait to go in depth and show you everything about this boy. So getting into articulation, his head articulation is pretty solid. He can do a full 360 if you wished, and then he can kind of look up and down, nothing too crazy. And when we get to arm articulation feels fairly good. He can put his arm up and down, do the 360, and elbow articulation does feel pretty good. He can get his forearm pretty much up all the way, and then wrist hand articulation is pretty solid. Jazwares doesn't really mess that up, so it just generic wrist articulation. The torso kills me because he doesn't budge at all. It's actually painful. Like, the centerpiece that I'm holding right now is his actual body is keeping him from moving, which I don't like it when a figure restrains itself. A figure should be one fluent unit. And then the leg articulation is solid. He can get his leg up all the way, so if in theory you did want him to sit down, you can do that. And because this is a Wave 4 figure, it's got that weird unorganic knee looking articulation that we saw with Halo 2 Chief, and foot articulation is pretty good. It doesn't feel stiff, it feels pretty fluent, and yeah, I'm overall satisfied with the articulation on this figure. The only thing killing me with the figure's articulation is the torso, and as you can see here, I've removed that centerpiece of the torso to show that it was that piece restricting the figure's movement, which makes me really sad because a figure should never restrict itself. I feel like a figure should be one fluent unit, and unfortunately that is not the case with Yoroi's torso. One interesting thing about this figure is that his armor, the samurai parts of the armor that kind of extend beyond the body, are made out of rubber and are really flimsy, and it's not just for the waist piece, it's also on the shoulder and that head piece on the helmet. It's any part that extends beyond the armor just is made out of that flimsy rubber, which is kind of a double-edged sword because some parts it makes sense and some parts it just doesn't. And I'm just realizing, since the Yoroi armor is based off samurai armor, the thighs have cloth instead of metal platings, so there's no pegs for any weapons on the thighs. And then of course we have the peg on the back to equip any weapons on the back, because this is still Spartan armor and the torso piece is metal, so in theory you can still equip weapons on your Spartan's back even if it is the samurai armor. And going into accessories, the first weapon that is included with our Spartan is the Disruptor, as you can see on screen, and this is the latest rendition of the Disruptor we have from Jazwares. Jazwares introduced this rendition in Wave 4, so if you saw my 20th anniversary 2-pack review, this version of the Disruptor is included, so I'm not going to compare this Disruptor to the past ones because I did it in that video. And I really like what Jazwares did with this Disruptor. You can see that they took the extra step to add the brown wrapping. Well, the wrapping was always there, the brown paint I should say, on the wrapping around the handle and trigger guard of the Disruptor. And I really like how there's two shades of gray on the Disruptor. It kind of adds a little more character to the weapon, and overall it's just a good execution of the Disruptor on Jazwares' end. And our next weapon that is included is the energy sword. I did try straightening out the blade at the end and it doesn't look too different, so that is unfortunate, especially since I paid aftermarket price for it. But hey, I chose to do that, so I can't get too mad. But overall, I don't think we've gotten an energy sword since Wave 2 with the neon green Mark 5B Spartan. I think there was one included in the Walgreens Master Chief which was Wave 3, but I don't have that Master Chief, so I can't compare that energy sword to this one, but I can compare Wave 2's energy sword to this one, and the only difference that I can really see is that with Wave 4's energy sword, there is detailing on both sides, where with Wave 2 it was only on one. Overall, I think it's the same print, same sculpt, just printing on both sides for Wave 4's energy sword. So for the hands that come with the Yoroi, we have the two dual-wielding ambidextrous gun-holding hands that we've seen throughout all of Wave 4. We have two energy sword hands, which implies dual-wielding energy swords can be done by this figure, which I think is very cool. Two closed fists, and then we have one kind of tactical call-out hand where it's like he has the two fingers pointed out and he can't really hold anything with that hand. And of course we have the armor plating on top of the hand with some armor plating on the fingers. Nothing too crazy, just a good sculpt and paint job done by Jazwares. So here we are at the turntable segment of the video, where you can have a nice look at the figure without me manhandling him. You get to hear my input about the figure, what I like, what I didn't like, and I couldn't just do the default pose as the first pose during this segment. I really just wanted to show off Yoroi with the two energy swords, seeing that he had the capability of doing so. So there you are. Now let's get into my thoughts on the figure. Let's go over some of the pros and cons of the figure. We're gonna just get the cons out of the way because I want to praise this figure more than talk down on it. So going over our first con, the torso articulation, there's no motion, no range of motion at all. This figure limits itself when it comes to torso articulation, and I feel like a figure should never limit itself. I feel like a figure should be one whole fluent unit, and unfortunately that is not the case when it comes to this figure's torso. When it comes to the knee, now articulation in the knee is really good, it's just the visual. So good articulation, bad visual. I wish that Jazwares would do something to make the knee articulation look more organic and, you know, not looking like his knee is broken. My third con, or this is more of just a preference, it has to do with the shoulder piece and the head piece. I don't like how flimsy it is. I don't know if this is coming from the, because what I saw what happened to the energy sword, how the energy sword is made out of that flimsy kind of bendable plastic, and the shoulder piece and the head piece on the Yoroi Spartan is made out of that same material. So I fear that, you know, if you just bend the armor on the shoulder piece or the helmet the wrong way, it will have the same fate as the energy sword. I kind of wish those pieces of armor were just made out of a more sturdier, harder plastic. And then for our fourth con, it's just the energy sword. I really wish that my blade wasn't bent. I'm not gonna blame the guy on eBay who sold it to me, because when I did receive this Spartan in the mail, the package was completely sealed, the tape was still there. Like, this guy did not open up the Spartan at all, so I'm not blaming him. I don't know who to blame at Jazwares. I don't want to blame Jazwares as a company, because I'm pretty sure some people got this. I'm pretty sure this is just a me issue, and people did get their Yoroi Spartan with a straight energy sword. So I don't know if it was just a factory problem or whatever. So that would probably be my fourth and last con for this figure. When it comes to the pros of this figure, there's a lot. There's the articulation is really solid, besides that one issue with the torso being limited. The paint job is really good. The sculpting's really good. So starting at articulation, this guy has a lot of ranges of motion when it comes to the head, the arms, the legs. It's all good, and I can't complain. When it comes to the paint job, I think they chose a really good paint job for this Spartan. It really has this samurai color palette that I think they nailed really well. I really like how the gold and red contrast each other, and just the blue gem on the top of the helmet just pops. It just looks really good. I think Jazwares did a really good job at nailing the color palette for this figure. And they did add some weathering to the figure, which I really like. It adds character to the Spartan itself. And I really like the reflective visors. Now, I know that's more of a subjective thing, as if you saw my Wave 5 and 6 video, I just really like reflective visors, and I know, unfortunately, for those figures in that upcoming waves, well, those upcoming waves, they are not having reflective visors, and that kind of bums me out. So if you don't like reflective visors, good for you. If you like reflective visors, sorry to tell you that, but I am happy that this figure, this really cool figure, does have the reflective visor. And the sculpting is really solid on this figure. I don't see any inaccuracies when comparing this guy to the in-game model, so really good on Jazwares for nailing that sculpt on this figure. And I would recommend this figure to anyone who is looking for more Spartan collection figures to add to their collection. And if you are just getting into collecting the Spartan collection figures, this would be a good figure to start off with. He is part of the latest wave until wave 5 comes out, and I want to say about 2 months, a little over 2 months. And while he's still kind of part of the freshest wave, I would do whatever you can to get him, even if it's aftermarket. Aftermarket prices for this guy are kind of low. You're only paying about an extra 20 bucks, where I know with Star Wars The Black Series, some of the aftermarket prices for those figures go 80 plus. So while aftermarket prices are considered low for this guy, I would get him. If you can find him retail, snatch him up, because I can say with full confidence this is the hardest Spartan collection figure to obtain, because just how many people are snatching this guy up the second he is made just available at retail price. So that's my input. I do recommend this figure a lot, and I will recommend this figure until there is a better one, which I don't know. We'll have to see. We are getting 2 deluxe figures and wave 5 and 6 fairly soon, so who knows. But for the time being, this is probably one of the coolest looking Spartan collection figures out there. So yeah, and that's pretty much all my input on this figure. I really do hope you enjoyed this review. I was so happy to finally get this video out, because now I can review waves 5 and 6. I did say in my wave 4 review, if I don't get this guy, I'm not reviewing those waves, but now I can say I will, and I can't wait to get those videos out when those guys do arrive. If you did enjoy the video, please like and sub. I'm not going to make you comment, because that's a lot of effort, and I'm not even going to make you touch the bell, because the bell doesn't work in the first place. So if you think I'm worthy of a like and a sub, thank you very much. But I really do care about the views more than anything, because it just shows that my content is getting out there. So I will see you all in another one, and yeah.